What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I am your host. I am Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know there's one thing I care about more than anything else in the industry, and that is trust. The supplement industry has a credibility problem. Too many brands chase hype over quality, too many influencers say whatever they're paid to say, and too many consumers have no idea who they can actually believe. Today's guest is someone who's built one of the most respected brands in the industry by doing the exact opposite. Robik, owner of Apollon Nutrition, joined me for one of the most honest conversations I've had on this podcast. We dive into why transparency matters, how marketing can manipulate consumers, what separates truly great supplement companies from the rest, why innovation has slowed down, and why telling the truth, even when it costs you, is the only way to build a brand that truly lasts. Whether you're someone who buys supplements every day, works in the industry, or you're building a business yourself, there are lessons in this episode that go way beyond protein powder and pre-workouts. So let's get into it. Well, welcome to the podcast, Robik. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for all the people listening, just give a brief intro on who you are and what you do.
My name is Robik. I'm the owner and founder of Apollon Nutrition. Not a founder, but co-owner of Apollon Gym in Edison, New Jersey.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have you on. One, because Apollon is one of the best supplement brands in the industry that people need to know more about, but also one of the most savage, probably the most savage brand in the industry, 100%. But you're also running a gym, which is really cool because those things go hand in hand. And you're really in on the supplement industry. You're probably one of the most knowledgeable people that I know in the supplement industry, just based on the conversations that I've had with you, but also everything that you're posting on your story. You're truly no bullshit, and that's why we get along so well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't know about like knowledgeable. I think that a lot of people are very, very knowledgeable. And this is kind of like, opens the door to the conversation right away. I think that I choose and you, that's the reason why we get along and, why I noticed you, you noticed me, and we became friends. But I think that a lot of people are very knowledgeable. I don't think that I'm the best. I just think that I'm probably one of, if not one of, yeah, probably the one who doesn't sugarcoat and very open book. So I say what other people don't say, but they probably know just as much as I do.
You're just more open to saying it.
Yeah, I don't think you need to hide anything. Plus, let's be honest, you can sell anything. You can pitch any idea, you can hype anything. But in the end of the day, even if I choose not to call you out on your bullshit, more than likely that we both know that you're bullshitting me. So, it just comes to a point where, like, you exposed a couple of brands and kind of went, in the open. A lot of people, a lot of reviewers would not do it. So it's by choice. Yes, you're very smart, you're very intelligent and knowledgeable, but, they probably know a thing or two also. Some of them are absolutely clueless, but at the end of the day, you choose whether to speak the truth. And I think that, yeah, you will create a lot of enemies and people that will not like you because, let's be honest, nothing pisses off people more than the truth. But it will also open the door to the audience that will really be appreciative for what you stand for. And I think that that the audience is more loyal, and I think you will be able to build a long-term brand because even as a viewer, you are a brand. That's who you are. And I think that that's maybe the reason why Apollon for 11 years now has been steadily growing rather than exploding. Each and every year we are more popular. Regardless of awards or whatnot, but in terms even of a revenue, and exposure, we more and more relevant and more popular. But I think it's because word of mouth. And I always said that if you have a good product, it will spread. If you have a shit product, you can pay for advertising and for marketing, you can blow it up. But the problem is that you're going to run into the wall when people realize that you have a shit product, and they will realize it sooner or later. And that's when marketing and hype will stop working.
And in today's day and age, that news travels really fast. So, like the word of mouth on your end, where it's somebody's having a really good experience with your brand and they talk about it, that starts to spread and you slowly start to grow. But on the other hand, if you have a crappy product and you're using so much money to market, and then people get your product, they realize it's bullshit, that's going to spread really fast. And then that's why so many supplement brands start every year and stop every year. And you're 11 years into the game and you're still going.
Yeah, I think that that's the secret. Listen, I mean, the bottom line is, and this is not shit talking at all. This is just pure fact. You can hire a partner up with somebody like C-Bomb, right? Or, and we've seen it with Raw, obviously. And, you know, clearly because of the following and because, he's a very likable guy and has a wide reach, you will be able to reach a lot of customers. You will be able to reach his fan base. So you will be able to sell more. But if you ask me, and I'm pretty sure you yourself can confirm it, because again, you're knowledgeable, I personally like products from Raw a lot more, the earlier versions, especially Revive, and people are talking about it, than what they are today. I don't think they are as good, but at the same time, from a business perspective, who really cares? Because they sell a tons. So as a business, they're very successful and somewhat of a role model to a lot of people within the industry. But me personally, I go more towards Ghost because not only I think that they amazing when it comes to marketing, and I just talked about this with Jeff Long. To me, Ghost is the ideal company, probably number one if I could rank. Why? Because number one, the products are really solid. I
Hmm.
think they have very good products. They formulations, well, not everybody has to be like Apollon, but that doesn't mean that Apollon is the best in its own category and more than likely unmatched. But that doesn't mean that Ghost is a bad product. Ghost is a phenomenal product. And plus, when you add a good product and marketing, I mean, you obviously have a winning formula. So to me, Ghost is probably ideal and probably the best example when it comes to success, where they cannot be and shouldn't be embarrassed by their formulas. In fact, they should be proud of them because their formulas are phenomenal. And at the same time, most of the flavors, because you can't say all flavors, not even all palm flavors, I personally like because it's subjective. But for most part, Ghost has very good flavors, very good look, very good marketing. So I think it boils down to, what you have. And like I said, in my opinion, Apollon kind of built a reputation because of word of mouth, because of people like you, because of my team and what we do. And when people try our products, in my opinion, they don't switch because they know that they're paying for quality and they're getting quality. And I mean, if I can be biased, and I am probably biased, I think our protein stays among the best on the market. So that's a hard fact to beat. So each and every brand has, of course, critics and haters, but that comes with the territory. That's inevitable. But, and I've seen a few comments about Raw. I just don't think the products are as good. So even though they have C-Bomb, at the end of the day, it comes down to your pockets, to your cash, to your wallet. So you can still be a fan of a certain athlete, does not mean you're going to buy the product if you bought the product initially because of that athlete, but you're not satisfied with the product. You can still remain the fan of the athlete, but you're not going to purchase the product again. So I think that that's what it boils down to.
Yeah. No, it's so important to not only look at the marketing and the branding, which is like a big part of it, obviously, because you need to get your brand out there, but also looking at what's on the back of the label. Like, is it actually something you want to use? Does it work for you? Is it, you know, proprietary blends, or is it actually a good product? And a lot of times, what I see is that when brands start to grow really quickly, they don't really keep up with their products as much, and that could be what's kind of going on in the Raw situation. Plus I know that they sold to another company, so that could also be what's going on. But as far as the pollen goes, how did you guys start? Like, where did that come from? Is it something you've always wanted to do, create a supplement company? Or tell me that story.
No, not at all. Actually, had absolutely zero interest. In fact, even owning the brand, I think for the first 2 or 3 years, had absolutely no interest in growing and expanding or anything like that. It was just kind of like an act of desperation, so to speak, because we do have a small hardcore gym, and just like any gym, we have a smoothie bar, a protein shake bar where people are ordering shakes. So we used to buy it for different brands from distributors and just make shakes at the gym. And the prices, obviously, they never stay, they always keep climbing. So the prices were climbing up and they were more and more expensive. Plus, it never sat well with me that some of the I bought the gym from the previous owner, and he used to sell things like muscle milk. And I always felt that exactly that muscle milk does not belong in a place like Apollon Gym, because we had a lot of athletes here and more serious people. So regardless of the fact that people will still buy muscle milk, it tasted good, but I just felt like this is not our level. So I always had my principles where, it just, and for example, the shakes were made with apple juice, which also didn't sit well with me, because I was like, who the fuck needs so much sugar?
Yeah.
You should be going with water, or at least, unsweetened almond milk or something like that, but you don't need all that sugar in a protein shake. To me, it defied logic. And long story short, we were kind of desperate because the prices kept climbing up, and that's when I found out that NutraBio is literally 15 minutes away from here. And I met with the owner. I actually just wanted to buy NutraBio products. I didn't even know about them because they were at the time very much direct to consumer brand.
Hmm.
So I didn't know much about them. When I looked into the formulas and everything, I was like, fuck, this is pretty impressive. And Mark comes from a martial arts background, and like very heavily he used to own karate schools. So on that level we really hit it off. We talked about martial arts. I would go and hang out with him in his office, and that's where he said, because they used to do contract manufacturing for a couple of brands, he told me that he's going to do a couple, if I want to do, like a Apollon Gym protein or something like that he would do a very limited number of units, and we can put our own label on it. So I said, okay, so we'll do like, 4 flavors of protein. We'll buy some inventory, I mean, a bare minimum that would last us probably for about a year, a pre-workout for the gym that would be stronger than, average, and that's it. So that's when I came to him with a formula for hooligan that I put together. And he thought that I'm a lunatic, because I mean the caffeine content was like 450 milligram, which was unheard of at the time. But he said to me, well, okay, he goes, it's your brand. And we literally had maybe 30 units of each flavor, which is ridiculous. It was very, very low. It's a small investment, and we thought, we're going to last for a while. I keep saying every time, I said Mark probably regrets that decision now, but he helped us out, and after some time, the brand started kind of gain a little popularity locally in New Jersey, in Addison, around this gym. People would stop by to get the protein, and people would stop by to get the pre workout because they heard how strong it is. And that was pretty much it. Little by little, our volumes started to grow, and we were forced to switch to another manufacturer just because, the volumes were up there. And that's when, we started selling more and more and more, but still locally. And then maybe 2 or 3 years later, the website and some stores came on board themselves, because we didn't even reach out to them. And that's when we realized that we probably have something going on, and went a little bit more aggressive. And then I think that's when I was introduced to Shane from Stacked. And he said to me, I looked at the formulas, he says, and I'm pretty impressed, but I've never heard of you. And, we started talking more and more. And then he nominated us for Brand of the Year, which completely came out of the blue. I think that was 2020. At that time, the brand was only 5 years old. And I told him, I joked, I said, so maybe we can win one day. He goes to me, oh, you absolutely can. I was like, seriously? He goes to me, yeah. He goes, I don't go by the size of the company or the revenue. To me, it's about innovation. To me, it's about the formulas, and consistency. And, that fired me up. We won Brand of the Year in 21 and 22 consecutive. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So you started with the protein and hooligan, and with your protein, was it just an isolate or was it a blend? What kind of stuff did you
No, it
start with?
was immediately was the blend of 50-50, because
Hmm.
I talk so, to be perfectly honest, Mark had a blend of of casein and isolate, but it was not selling that well, I think, for NutraBio. So it was kind of very, very under the radar. And isolate, I was like, I'm not that big on isolate alone. And then I dug up some studies from Denmark and from the University of Texas, where it was pretty much confirmed that the combination of isolate and casein is superior to just isolate. I was like, it's right here. It's proven that it's more effective, and it tastes better, and it's a lot creamier than just isolate. I was like, why don't we do that? And that's pretty much how we started with 50-50. And we had 50-50, I think, for 3 or 4 years before we even released isolate or anything else. And it's still our number one seller. So regardless of the fact that we have isolate and we have No Way Out, I would say that the 50-50 is our number one, and No Way Out is our number two.
Yeah. No Way Out's my favorite. So good. I can't get over how creamy it is just for being a whey protein. Usually, like
Yeah.
it needs the case in to make it that creamy, so I couldn't even imagine the 50-50. But obviously, like I mentioned in the beginning, Apollon has like a very aggressive way at going at formulas, which I absolutely love. Was that kind of always the vision? Was it always, I want to make everything efficaciously dosed or even higher than that? Because I was even having a conversation with Justin last week, and he was saying that you were considering 6.2 grams of beta alanine in a pre-workout, and he said go for it, and I say go for it too.
Yeah, so the transparency thing always bothered me within the industry, but again, I was not part of the industry. I had no interest of being part of the industry. I was somewhat knowledgeable, but I can't claim that I knew everything. I was mostly, running the gym. I do have a marketing degree, and martial arts was kind of my thing. And bodybuilding, I used to coach people before I went back to martial arts and competing. So I had no interest whatsoever. But once I got to talk to Mark, he is very passionate about transparency. Like he's very, very, very passionate about it. But where Mark and I are different, Mark is more composed. He's more on a level of being normal, where I'm a little bit opposite. I do have a very aggressive personality, and I am very competitive. If I beat you, I'm gonna try to beat myself now. I have to beat somebody. Like I have to be better. It's just my personality that comes out. I don't know where it's from. It's probably in my DNA. I just have to do a little bit better. Like everything I do. That's the reason why I even get a little bit pissed when people are asking, "So is the new Hooligan, going to be better than the previous one?" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, what is the point of releasing a new version if it's not better than the previous one? So it's always about competing and raising the bar a little bit more because apart from the fact, yes, it's a business, no doubt about it. The Apollon Nutrition is a business, Apollon Gym is a business. We have bills to pay. We obviously, have to make a living. But for me, it's just a little bit more than that. I have to do better. Yeah, it just every time I approach something, I have to be a little bit more aggressive and I have to do things. So when people think that it's against somebody, it's not against somebody, it's against me. And, let's be honest, there are a couple of brands that have tried to duplicate or replicate what Apollon is doing, and it's pretty apparent, and you can see it. A lot of people can see it. I mean, they pretty much shamelessly try to rip us off, and they do, but they always kind of like one step behind. They don't have what it takes to go and just like sprint. There was an interview with Dorian Yates when he was Mr. Olympia, and they asked him a question. They said, "Well, Flex Wheeler is a runner-up." And you're winning. What's the difference? And he said, Flex Wheeler should be beating me all the time because he's just better. He's genetically way better than me. But the problem with Flex, he says he's going to be comfortably jogging while I'll be killing myself, sprinting to the finishing line. So either I'm going to collapse and die or I'm going to win. I will do whatever it takes. And, maybe not to such extremes, but that's my personality. Like I have to do better. If I cannot, I retired from Muay Thai because I knew that there was no way I can be better, whether it's age related or injuries or whatever. I knew this is it. Even though I won that my last fight in a very great fashion, but I knew in my mind that this is it. I also knew that I won by a fluke. I was losing that fight. I knew that there is no way I can get better. I knew that I absolutely put everything on the line. I never trained harder. I never gave better than that. I knew it was the end. So as long as I know that I can get better, I will keep getting better. So it's not a knock on any other brands. I don't care about other brands. I care about Apollon Nutrition. They can do whatever the fuck they want to do. My job is to keep evolving and getting better because for me it's also fun. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. It kind of gives me like a little high. Everybody has their own thing, like whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever. My high is getting better in whatever I do. And that's so for me, it's a pretty simple formula.
Yeah. And that's exactly why you continue to level things up and why you never stay complacent. And I'm kind of the same way in the fact where like I might not be the most talented or the smartest person, but I'm always going to work the hardest and I don't care what anybody else is doing. It's like what am I doing, right? And it's kind of like that you versus you mentality. And I think that's such a great way to position Apollon, because it really is like you guys just stay in your lane. And if other people are copying you, and I know we've discussed this in the past, it's like, cool, they're way behind you because they're doing something that you already did. And now you're already on to the next thing. And they're still all the way behind there. And it's been done. And you're just continuing to innovate.
Well, I mean, obviously, when you have a great hairstyle, or you have, great T-shirt or something like that that you got, and you see somebody else is trying to copy you by doing the same thing, it is a little annoying. It is. So I'm not going to deny the fact that it doesn't piss me off, because then I'd be lying. It does annoy me, but I immediately, rather than getting even more angry, I look at it from a perspective. Hold on a second. They copying me. They looking up to me. They trying to be like me. It should be, it's flattering more than anything. And I remember there was one time, one brand in particular, when Hooligan 7 came out. Few months later, a brand released a pre-workout that looked very, very similar to Hooligan. Not as good, but even the structure, the breakdown, I mean, the style, it looked very much like us. And then there was another company that did Desperado, pretty much identical. They just changed one product slightly. It still looked pretty much the same, And I reached out to Shayna, and I was pissed. I was so angry. I was like, what the fuck? And he called me and he said, "Why are you so pissed?" He says, "You still the original. You still the one who came up with it first. They copying you. You're not copying them." So he goes, "Just totally ignore it. Let it go." And it's easier to look at it that way.
Yeah, I have to do the same thing because, as I started to grow, what I realized is, shoot, somebody else is doing the exact same thing that I was doing that's kind of interested. And then saying the same things that I'm saying, or I had somebody legitimately copy a video of mine word for word. Actually, I forget his name, but he was a very famous competitive bodybuilder in the Arnold
I
and
think
in
I
the Olympia.
remember that because we talked about it. I remember that. Yes.
And it was like at first you're just like, oh my gosh, this sucks. Like I hate this. Why is that person copying me? And then again, you take a step back and you reframe and be like, I must be doing something right because somebody's copying me. So I'm going to continue growing and being creative and doing what I do and just worry about being me.
Well, you know what? And we brought this up a few times, and actually, I brought it up a few times to a point where I actually wanted to apologize to you, because I kept bringing up the fact female reviewer, female reviewer, female reviewer, and then I was like, okay, I have to stop it. It's getting old, and it's like it was fun in the beginning, but you can't like fixate on the fact that Caitlyn is a female, because that's kind of getting old. The fact is that you're making a difference, and you are a reviewer regardless, of gender or anything else. I mean, it doesn't really matter. At first it's fun because you literally are the first one, and then it gets old and it has to be perceived as somebody who are men, competitive bodybuilders, I trying to copy. So that should be flattering, and that brings me to a point of being original. I think that that's very, very important, because again, I got, I pissed off quite a few people when I said that bodybuilders are not the same in terms of like, making as much difference when it comes to supplements as they used to be. They're not as influential as they used to be. And I pointed out the obvious, the fact that they jumping ship all the time. They jumping from brand to brand all the time. I don't think they're as credible as they used to be. They're not as knowledgeable. And you have today a lot of people who are, just as credible without being on stage. It doesn't really matter. You can have an influence on people without being on stage or being a bodybuilder. You don't even have to be an athlete or competitive athlete. You can make a difference. And somebody yesterday said to me, that's the reason why I asked the question about today on my social media about collaborations, because a friend of mine actually reached out to me and he said, "Why don't you do peach lemonade with Masha on Hooligan and Bare Knuckle?" I was like, we actually, even though we didn't release Peach Lemonade in Bare Knuckle and it's not in the new Hooligan, but we do have those flavors that we already approved on the back end, and we might probably release them sometimes in 2027 because they really taste good. And he said to me, "Yeah, but use Masha." I was like, what the fuck does Masha have to do with Bare Knuckle and Hooligan? He goes to me, "She has to do the fact that she's with a palm." I was like, okay. I said, but still. Like, I don't see the connection. He goes to me, and what are you looking for? And he goes to me, what is the connection between Masha and Enigma? I was like, not much, really. He goes to me, well, that's exactly my point. He says, and how is Enigma doing? I said, it's doing phenomenal. People love it. He goes to you, so you have Masha's ass on a label. He says,
So
and you
unhinged.
yeah, and he says to me, and you have a great tasting flavor, and it's a hot seller. I was like, it's a very hot seller. He goes to me, the problem is, he goes, that you cannot forget that Apollon is not like other brands. Yes, he goes to me, you literally have a MILF. He calls her a MILF. He says, you have a MILF on a label of intra workout amino product, and it still sells to men and women. He goes, it's different, it tastes amazing. He goes, but that's what separates you from others. And I think that that's exactly could be related to somebody like you, because apart, again, I'm going back to it, even though I said I wouldn't, that you're a female, but you do things differently. And I think that that was what was noticeable. And obviously you work with price flow, and you literally exploded it only in the last couple of months. But that has to do with the fact that in the beginning, I think the female part, but it's the delivery. It's the delivery and doing something that others don't do. Because let's be honest, like when it comes today to content creators or reviewers or whatever you, for example, think that you are, it's whether people believe you or not, whether they're going to buy the product because of you, they're going to listen to your advice or not. And past your looks, past your gender, past your religion, past anything, it's, are you believable? Are you believable? Are you honest? And in today's review space, you don't have a lot of reviewers. It seems like everybody's reviewing products, but in reality, there are also a lot of brands, and people keep saying how competitive the supplement industry is. I actually beg to differ. I don't think it's that competitive. Competitive is when you have, for example, Mercedes and BMW and an Audi. That's very competitive. Those three are very competitive because they basically target the same market.
Hmm.
So they compete among themselves. But in the supplement industry, you have shitload of crappy brands. Shitload. I mean, I would say 90%.
Yeah,
So
that might be a
how
smart statistic.
yeah, so how competitive is it? It's not. It's not really competitive. And even some of the loaded formulas that we've seen, people that are trying to do what Apollon is what Apollon is doing, where they load the pre-workouts or the products, but then you look at the formula like, okay, this does not make any sense. It's loaded, but it's really crappy. So sometimes I look at those formulas like, I wish that would be a proprietary blend because this is really embarrassing.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the biggest red flags in the supplement industry?
Lies. Lies, and I think that has to do with brands shamelessly, and I mean shamelessly, making statements that are completely inaccurate, whether it's about ingredients that are gimmicky and don't work, or you have or paying somebody to basically lie because it's not. There is a difference between me paying you, for example, to promote something, and me paying you to lie because I know you're lying, you know you're lying. I am paying you to lie, but you're accepting money to lie. And now a lot of customers know that you're lying. So it's like a vicious circle that everybody knows, yet everybody is quiet. Case in point, and this is something that's been in the industry. I had a couple of reviewers reaching out to me, and I'm not throwing them under the bus. I'm not even going to name them. I'll be nice. Where they reached out and they said, well, you know what? I have to review Panda pre workout that has nitrates in it, but it doesn't have NO3T. So he goes, how do I avoid getting in trouble about it? And they told me not to say that that ingredient is part of the formula. I'm like, so what do you? I said, don't review the product. If you don't want to come out and tell the truth, you want to avoid it. Just don't review the product. Yeah, you're probably right. 2 days later, he's reviewing the product and he is avoiding mentioning the ingredient. I'm like, what are we doing? Because everybody saw it. Everybody saw it and everybody saw what was going on, and yet you're not mentioning about it. And keep in mind, I mean, Panda does have, I think the protein tastes very, very good. Some of the formulas are, I would say, good. Yes, the marketing is aggressive, which is great for them. But at the end of the day, if something is wrong with my product, I don't even wait for somebody to say it. I'll come out and say it myself. When I was inexperienced enough, because sometimes you do cheat on purpose, and sometimes you just make an honest mistake. When I made an honest mistake because lack of knowledge and I included S7 as part of my formulation, I killed the product myself. When I realized that, it was pointed out to me that it's a gimmicky, useless ingredient, I came out and was like, I made a video and I was like, guys, I apologize. I'm really sorry. You know what? I fucked up. I put an ingredient that doesn't belong, and I feel like, I betrayed your trust. I think that that's the way it should be. Yes, I lost some money on it, but I lost the money because of my stupidity and because of my mistake. But telling people the truth, it worked. Or for example, when I didn't know any better, when I was putting glycerol in also in bare knuckle, and it clumped badly. It
Mm-hmm.
clumped so badly, it was crazy. And I remember Robert Chinetsky, who is an industry expert, he called me and he was always telling me the truth. And he said to me, okay, let me teach you something. He says, glycerol is a great product. He says, but you really need about 15 to 20 grams for it to be like fully effective. So when you do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 grams, yeah, it will do something. He says, but more than likely it will clump the shit out of your product. It will mess it up, and you can just go with citrulline. He goes, and you can go with Vasodrive, and you can go with nitrosamine, and you can go with nitrates. I was like, so why don't people do it? He goes, because it's expensive. So rather than going with the expensive but effective ingredients, what they do, they resort to glycerol because it's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
They go to S7 because it's bullshit that has a little R at the end, or they will go with Norvalin. He says, so that's all business. I was like, and I was very naive. I didn't know any better. I was like, really, people do that? He goes to me, oh yeah, of course they do. Oh, he said, oh, they will do something where they will put a little bit of the good ingredient, and it's part of the formula, and that's it. And there was very well known brand, it still exists, where when you look at the formula, the beginning was always super impressive,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second half would be a complete mess. And then again, I mean, all you have to do is pay somebody $500 who's going to scream into the screen saying how great it is and groundbreaking and whatever else script they give them. And all of a sudden, people go like, it's probably good. No, it's not good. It's shit. You were just lied to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the supplement industry absolutely has a trust problem, and that's something I actually made a video on recently. And it sucks because a lot of consumers just don't understand the difference between a trustworthy supplement company and just a hype supplement company, right? Because a lot of premium brands just have premium marketing budgets or premium influencers or whatever you want to call it, and they have millions of followers on social media, and then you actually look at their blend and it's like, what? This is a proprietary blend full of, I don't even know what's in here. Like the amount of times I see something where it's like a proprietary blend and citrulline and creatine are all in the same blend and it's like 5 grams total. I'm like, how does that? And people are buying this, you know?
Well, there are products that feature something like DMHA, for example, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there is one brand who is heavily dependent on that ingredient. I have nothing against DMHA. I think it's a great ingredient. It has kind of a gray area status. It's not really illegal. It's not really legal. It's somewhere in between. I have nothing against it. You can use the I mean, I can use the MHA. I'm thinking about using the MHA in one of the products. It's a gray area ingredient, so, kind of can go either way. But if you're using DMHA, why don't you use the rest of the formula and properly dose the ingredients and actually put the ingredients that will work synergetically, and they will actually, they will be complementing each other. You can just put DMHA and then around DMHA put whatever. It shouldn't work that way. And like you said, proprietary blends too. You know what? Labels are just labels, like TJ says, which I always said it's the stupidest thing to say. It sounds pretty cool that labels are just labels, but they're not. They're not just labels, especially if it's manufactured at a very good facility. And I called them out on that, even though I consider him a friend. I said, you're full of shit. Labels are definitely not just labels. They represent a lot more than that. And for somebody like me who puts heart and soul into my formulas and money, it's offensive because I think it's very offensive when you say labels are just labels. So you saying just because this product that has 5 or 7 grams of proprietary blend, and out of those 5 7 grams, 5 or 6 or 700 milligrams is caffeine, with like 3 or 4 grams of milligrams of alpha yo. Of course you're gonna feel it. It's still a shit pre workout. It's still a
Hmm.
shit pre workout. So it's all about the feel. Really? Okay, so take caffeine pills that cost absolutely nothing. They typically come in 200 milligram. Pop about 3 or 4 or 5 of them at the same time. Take alpha yaw that you can also buy separately. Combine them together. It's still going to be a transparent. You're going to be flying. Now, how's your pump going to be? How's your focus going to be? How are you going to feel after? Those are the things that make a great pre-workout. And I think that that's an issue within the industry where, again, I mean, it makes it sound like everybody's shit. No. I mean, for example, like a pro, we started around the same time, and we had our ups and downs in our relationship, but I always said that I respect the brand. Why? Because he also initially, when he started, he had citrulline mally in his formula. He also had, I believe, norvalin or something in his formula. Shit. But you're not gonna find it now. Why? Because he actually upgraded. He actually fixed his mistakes just like I did. And for that, I think he deserves respect. He stuck to his guns, but his formulas have evolved, they improved. And, no shitty ingredients are used. You can shit on a brand, like I already said, Ghost. Great company. I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about it. You can shit on a company like NutriBio. That's a gold standard probably in the industry.
Hmm.
So there are a couple of brands that are really, really good and doing things right. But the majority are still, crap, and people that are promoting it or giving it a good review saying that I am unbiased. Well, you're not serving the industry, you're serving your pockets. And even those cowards that don't say it, they still know that you're lying because behind your back they still talk shit. Because I've seen guys that will criticize those that do shitty reviews and doing a shitty job, but then comment on their page saying, "Oh yeah, I support you. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I agree with you." I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing? You just behind his back talk shit about him, criticized him. You're an adult, and then you went on his page where he's openly lying about a product, and you said, 'Yeah, I need to try it. Sounds good, great review.'" I'm like, "Okay, this is a problem. We used to do it when, at least I used to do it when I was, I don't know, a teenager or a kid. We used to do shit like that." But when you're an adult and you have certain responsibilities, and I think your honesty goes a long way.
Yeah. It comes down, I mean, your reputation is so important too, because if you say one thing in a video and it's complete bullshit, then it ruins your reputation. People aren't going to trust you in the next video, even if you are being transparent. And what I found is that why wouldn't you be honest and transparent? Because I've built something with trust. And if somebody watching on the other end trusts me because of past things that I've said and I lie to them, then they're going to take my information, see it as truth, and then maybe mess something up in their own life. And that's a lot of responsibility that people, I cannot understand why certain influencers just say things without realizing how much of an impact they could have on somebody's health.
Well, yeah, because again, it comes down, I think, to upbringing, your personality, your principles. I mean, are you able to look yourself in a mirror knowing that you're a fucking liar? Some people can, I can't. I mean, there's a difference. And of course, we all have either wives, husbands, children, parents, so I mean, by damaging our reputation, we also damaging their reputation. It's a reflection of us. So I think that we are kind of owe it to ourselves. Again, there will people that even if you're honest, they will hate you. They will talk shit about you. They will criticize you. And that's okay because you can't please everyone. And especially if you criticize somebody for a reason, there is no way they're going to like you. It's always going to come down to something. In terms of the industry, I mean, how many times have you seen protein that says 100% whey? Again, uneducated consumer will say like, "Wow, it's 100% whey protein. Great." And then they're going to say, "Well, that's 100% whey protein cost $40, but Apollon costs $55 or $60. Like, well, Apollon is ripping us off. The problem is that the reviewer is going to review that product should be able to point out and say, well, this 100% whey protein is 100% whey protein concentrate and not the good kind. It's not WPC 80 because it says
Hmm.
nowhere it is WPC 80. This is a So out of 25 grams of protein, in reality, you're probably getting half because it's 30%, 40% concentrate. It says 100% whey, so they're not breaking the law. But without breaking the law, they're still cheating. They're still cheating and they're still ripping you off.
Hmm. And that's one of the things that I loved most when I first reviewed your product. The first product I reviewed was No Way Out, the butter cookie flavor, because you sent it to me. And I remember looking at it and being like, whoa, this is like fully transparent. Like they even tell you exactly what everything is here versus a lot of proteins. It's like there's whey protein isolate in here, but you don't really understand how much of it or what kind it is, right? So specifying the WPC 80, if a brand is using WPC 80 and they're spending the money to use it, they're going to be proud of promoting it because it's the highest quality concentrate you can get. If they're not saying it, you should probably maybe think about that. But also, people always comment on videos of mine and they're like, "Oh, well, I can't tolerate whey protein concentrate." And then I ask them what brands they've tried. And I'm like, well, it has absolutely nothing to do with whey protein concentrate. It has to do with the fact that you're buying the shittiest brands that you possibly can. And they're using the shittiest quality whey protein concentrate they can possibly get so that it's cheaper on their end and then they can rip you off.
Yeah, because the thing is that, and again, there is nothing wrong with educating people because, especially if they want to be educated, because I
Hmm.
think that we're supposed to, if we consider ourselves experts in a certain area, it's almost our duty to tell people the truth. And I had this with one IFBB pro who came to Apollon and he said that, well, you know, it was some kind of a brand that he had 26, I remember it was 26 or 27 grams of protein isolate per serving. And he goes to me, why would I use your WPC 80 No Way Out if it has only 25 grams of protein? I was like, well, I said, because number one, it probably tastes better. But besides that, I said, we actually have more protein than your isolate. He goes, but you don't. I said, well, actually, we do. I said, because if you look, I said, our 25 grams is yield amount out of 32. It's 25 yield, it's total amount of protein per serving. I said, yours says 26, but it's not yield, which means you have to subtract 10% at least. I said, so yours essentially is actually less protein than mine. Not by a lot, but it's still less. So, like, even though he goes to me, oh, I didn't know that it works that way, but it does. It does. And that transparency is very, very important, especially when it comes to protein, because they vary. I mean, they can be 80% like WPC 80, or they can be isolate, or they can be a lot lower. And those that are a lot lower, the cheap ones, I mean, I think that they, most part, it's, I think WPC 80, 30. I think it's actually 30% protein. So you legally, because it's not illegal to say that, you legally getting ripped off because out of 25 grams protein stated on the label, you're getting 30%, less than half. So you're getting what, 8, 10 grams of protein per serving? I mean, it's a fucking crime. And you think that you're paying less, but you're actually paying more.
Hmm.
So if we can educate, I mean, if we can help, that's great. I mean, if somebody wants help.
That's it. They have to be willing to accept the help, right? Because some people just get so offended that you said that they are taking in low quality protein and they think that you're just trying to sell them something. But the way that I like to do it is my goal with my content is to educate, entertain, inspire somebody to make a change and to help them make the best possible decision for their wallet, but also for their results mattering more. Because I find that if you want good supplements, if you want high quality protein, you're going to have to invest a little bit more money into that kind of stuff. But investing in your health is the best investment you can make because when you're healthier, you're able to be more present in all areas of your life. And I argue that you will probably make more money.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's all related. And just like you said, that somebody complains about whey protein, well, I cannot tolerate whey protein. I mean, it's possible, but in most cases, if you will have 100% whey protein that has only 30% protein in it, what does the other 70 come from? I mean, maybe that's the reason why you cannot tolerate this protein. I mean, that's very, very possible, that it's actually not the protein itself, but something else that's in it that fucks up your stomach, because it's very, very possible. But again, it comes down to pure education and willingness to do things right. But in my opinion, when you do things right, it's probably a little bit slower path to success, but you still will get it, because even, throughout all the hate and envy and criticism from those that just cannot stand you because you're telling the truth, people that if you're going to recommend a good product to them and they're going to feel the effects of it and they're going to enjoy it and they're going to see that it's money well spent, well, guess what? Those people will stay with you. They will believe you. They will trust you. But those that are, just try to make a quick buck, there is a reason why it's called a quick buck. It's called a quick buck because it's shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's shit, and sooner or later, we had throughout the years, obviously, even customers such as retailers or wholesalers, they will come to us and they will say, can I get this, can I get that? And most of the time, I actually posted about this today, we are COD, you have to pay and then you get the goods. I mean, that's normal way of operating business, but sometimes you give people terms where they have to pay for it later. And there were times where we actually did not get the payment. It did happen, for whatever reason. Either we got scammed or something like that. I mean, you cannot have a business without being scammed or lied to or whatever. But I said, it's not a big deal. I said, I look at it as something good and a learning experience, because if you are buying from us and you want to buy Apollon products and you cheated us or you scammed us or you didn't, like, guess what? We're not going to work with you in the future. So your competitors will have our products, but you not. And whenever you come to us and you want a favor or you want something, it's over. It's over. And guess what? We will tell others that you suck. We will tell us, because your reputation now is damaged. And that is something that people don't understand. The lies can only go so far.
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing I'll tell you, because I told Justin this actually the other day, and he was, I think he was pretty shocked. There is a reviewer who I got to talk to a while ago, and he talked about a certain brand extremely negatively. I mean, he said just some really disgusting things about the brand and the owners. I was like, okay, again, it's his opinion. I didn't get into conversation or anything like that about it, but he spoke very, very badly about them. Fast forward, recently, I saw that he was reviewing the products of that very same company, basically saying that it's nearly the best brand on the market. I was like, that's. But again, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who he spoke negatively about the brand. So I'm like, you don't even realize how damaged your reputation is. Like, I will not work with you ever again. Because I can only suspect what you probably say about me and what you say about other people. You clearly not a good person. So, but you're not hurting me. You're not hurting that brand. I mean, it's a shame that that brand doesn't know, but you causing damage to yourself. This is how you burn bridges. And I think that that's the most, you can have a disagreement with somebody, but don't burn bridges. Walk away with dignity. Don't get into confrontation. Shut the fuck up. Because in the future, you never know. But if you burn bridges, that's it. It's over. And the brand owners, they talk among themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just not a smart way of doing business. And, just it's not professional.
Yeah, very unprofessional. And if, I mean, the reality is, if somebody's talking bad about one person behind their backs, they're probably talking shit about you behind your back. That's just how people go. If they're talking shit, they're always talking shit.
They do, and that's the reason why I said, I right now my circle, my immediate circle is very, very small, and I
Mm-hmm.
like it that way. I want to stick to it that way because I think that that's how you can get better. You gotta have people around you that are, that you can trust, and then who you work with, and clearly anyone can buy the product and review it. I mean, that's not a problem if they're willing to spend the money, and some people do buy our products and even give us shitty reviews. And I look at it like, okay, whatever. Maybe they want the publicity or maybe they just clueless or whatnot. But those are usually the reviewers that are not really, they don't move the needle. so it doesn't really matter. And there was a time where I would respond to them or would get into confrontation with them. I don't do it anymore. The reason is I completely ignore, and I always tell people, don't send me those links. I'm just not interested, because that person is obviously lacks intelligence and knowledge, and maybe even wants to get a reaction out of me because, yes, I am known in the industry and I don't want to make them relevant. I have absolutely zero intention of making that person relevant. So when we do send products, we send products to those that we believe will do a good job. Not just saying, oh, this is the best flavor on the market. No, I don't want you to say that. I mean, if it is, great. But if it's not, that's fine too. What I want you to say is actually explain how our product is different from others, what ingredients, what dosages, what transparency. That's what I'm interested in, that you can actually do the product justice by having a knowledge, expertise, and honesty where people actually trust you. So that's the reason, like, for example, Marina's project. That we've been kind of like hyping up, and it's a great project that she's going to announce tomorrow. I mean, it's coming out on August 5th. We already identified that we are sending that product to like 3 or 4 reviewers only, you included, of course. And that's something that we discussed, that we don't want to send to everybody, only to those that actually will understand what the product is.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, formula is so important. And you guys, your formulas are ridiculous. They're always, like I said, transparent, always efficaciously dosed, clinically dosed. But have you always had really good flavors, or is that something that's evolved over the years? Because I know back 10 years ago, a lot of people didn't really care about flavors as much as they do today.
So I believe, and based on the feedback, our protein always tasted good. That is something that we always had good tasting protein. I don't think it was the best or among the best, but it was very, very good flavors. And we had repeat buyers all the time for our protein. Our pre workouts, completely different story. Our pre workouts, because of how loaded they are and because of the ingredients that we usually use, they did not taste good. In fact, I would say they tasted pretty bad. They were notorious. They were known as notoriously bad tasting pre workouts, which initially was kind of like a marketing thing. People
Yeah.
loved the fact that it tasted like shit, and they they were dry scooping it in competitions, and I can handle it, and I only care about the effects. But obviously, the technology has changed with time, and it was still very, very difficult for us to flavor our pre-workouts. Very, very difficult. We got a little bit better with time, but I think the breaking point came probably about 2 years ago. And it came, I mean, you know exactly where I'm going with this. It came with Masha. When Masha came on board, she was just helping us out. She was a part-time employee at Apollon. Didn't know anything about the industry. Didn't. I mean, she's just a friend who we hired to help us out, and that's it. Mostly at the gym, but we always knew as her friends, because we've known her for years, that that bitch can cook and she can bake. She's like really, really good in the kitchen, and all her friends, everybody know about it. So we had an anniversary where we had a Palm Gym anniversary, and for the entire gym, she made her French apple tart. And when she made her French apple tart, she brought it to the gym. It was such a hit. People were eating it like crazy. I mean, it was just a hit. And that's when I'll take the credit for it. I approached her and I said, like, why don't you make more? I said, and let's go to the manufacturer. She made more. We went to the manufacturer and we said, like, we want this flavor. And they like, okay, we can try. And she was involved in flavoring because she literally has a secret ingredient in it. And she told them what she uses and how, and they kind of, let her be in a lab and work with them. And as a result, it came out fantastic. But before that, we already saw that there is something, because we came up with a limited edition of Ruby chocolate.
Hmm.
And Ruby chocolate, nobody knew what it was. It was from Europe, and actually Shane suggested that we be the first on the market to release it. And when we tried to flavor it, none of us knew what Ruby chocolate is. Masha came and she goes, well, Ruby chocolate is sold at Whole Foods. She goes, I know exactly what it tastes like. And when we went to the manufacturer, they tried to do it. And she said, I remember because I was in the meeting, she goes, why don't you add a little bit of raspberry to it? And they like, raspberry? She goes, yeah, like white chocolate and raspberry. It's gonna imitate probably the taste. And when it came out, it was like, holy shit, it tastes just like that chocolate. And that was the beginning. And then the French apple tart. So once the French apple tart was flavored and we all tried it and we loved it. So that's why we said, you know what? Why don't we put matcha on a label? I mean, she has no followers. Nobody knows who she is. And let's just try. And she promoted herself. Like we didn't even promote it because we only got like a small number of units.
Hmm.
She went crazy promoting it on her social media with very limited following, and it sold out almost instantly. And then came, the carrot cheesecake, and she started flavoring the entire No Way Out. And now she's involved with pre-workouts. She changed the entire pre-workouts how they taste, 24, 25. And now our pre-workouts, I would say, especially considering what they have, they really taste great. So I think that the flavors definitely changed in the last 2 or 3 years, where right now I would say with confidence I'll put our protein against anyone on the market. Anyone, any blind taste test, I will put it, and I don't think we will lose. That's how confident I am. Pre-workouts, I don't think we have the best tasting pre-workouts, but we definitely at the very top. And especially when factor what they contain and how much in terms of ingredients, that's really impressive.
Mm. No, you guys do a great job. Like the protein blows my mind. Like I recently tried the white chocolate almond coconut one, and I don't even like those flavors that much. Like I'll tolerate them, but usually white chocolate's too sweet, almonds too bitter, coconut's too sunscreeny, and I couldn't believe how good that flavor is.
That flavor came from the same company that makes Ferrero Rocher, the chocolate.
That makes sense.
They make those, what is it called? It's the white ones. Forgot. So they make those, and it's coconut and almond and white chocolate. So they make those, and that's where, we took them to the manufacturer and we said that that's what we want to make. When it came out, that flavor was not moving. Nobody was buying it. It's very popular in Europe, the chocolate, but
Hmm.
it's called Raffaello. Raffaella or
Yeah,
Raffaello,
okay.
something like
I
that.
can visualize it.
Yeah, Raffaello. And in Europe, it's super popular, but over here, nobody was buying. And again, like with anything else, we had some kind of a special where people tried it, and we started sending samples out. And now I would say it still doesn't sell as much as, the butter cookie butter. It's not on the same level, but I would say it's a close second now. So it's definitely among top sellers now.
Yeah, butter cookie and carrot cheesecake just are so good for me. Like they constantly switch in and out of the number one spot.
Carrot cheesecake is amazing. I mean, again, I know that some people don't like carrot cake. I love carrot cake, so for me, that's an easy one.
Absolutely. Yeah, now as far as innovation, you guys also innovate quite a bit. So, April Fool's Day, you guys launched a what was it? A bucket basically of coffee protein type thing.
Yeah. So every obviously April's Fools, there is always a pressure to release something that is very, very unusual. And last year it was pre-99, where we had 99 servings of pre-workout. That was very,
Mhm.
very popular. And this year we actually tried to go for a little sexual theme, but at the end we decided to we were not happy with the flavor how it came out, and it was like literally last minute. So we said, you know what, we're not going to do it. We have to perfect the flavor. And Masha was saying that she needs more time on it and kind of like figure things out. I said, you know what, maybe we'll do it next year. There is no rush. And that's where Carolina came up with an idea. She said, like, a lot of people come with, with coffee proteins. She goes, but nobody comes really with a real good coffee protein. I mean, clearly, sharp coffee is amazing because it has like loaded nootropics, and it has that caffeine. It's very strong. And she said, so why don't we combine it with our protein and just like do a limited run, in a bucket? I was like, that's crazy. She goes, even if we don't, because we sold it very cheap for what it was. I don't even remember. It was very cheap, like almost like cost or something. And she goes, like, it's going to be a good promo. It's going to be a good hype. And I remember telling Shane, and he goes to me, I think it's brilliant. So that was gone, I think, within a day, which we were surprised because it's expensive. It's a lot of money. So we sold out, and now this is probably the first time that I'm going to announce it, but we are re-releasing it, not in a bucket, but in actual form of 50/50 Formula X combined with sharp coffee. So that's going to be a release, I think, sometimes in September or October.
That's genius actually because protein coffee is something that people have religiously. Like when I reviewed Sharp Coffee for the first time, I put some butter cookie in it, the No Way Out, and it was so good. In fact, I made that for my husband so many times before we ran out of the Sharp Coffee because he loves that. I need to get more. But I think that's so innovative. And I feel like not a lot of people are innovating anymore in the industry. It's kind of just like recycling formulas and then maybe putting some trendy peptide products in things now.
Because the thing is that, like, I mean, peptides is just like, I fucking hate that. I absolutely hate it. Not that they don't work. I mean, peptides do work. I'm not disputing that. They do work. But when it's monetized in the supplement industry just to make profit, and it's used pretty much on peptide pre-workout, peptide intra-workout, peptide this, peptide that. I was like, come on, enough. I mean,
Hmm.
it's pretty obvious what you're doing, and it's kind of it's pretty fucked up. But the innovation itself, like, it's innovation takes a risk.
Hmm.
It takes a risk. It also takes resources, financial resources, to promote it, to really hype it up, and to explain to people, and most of the time it's very expensive. It's not cheap, so people just recycling different things. There was something that Eric Schwartz reviewed, a pre-workout, I think just yesterday or the day before, where he pointed out that there's a pre-workout that has a bunch of trademarks that you won't even be able to find. They don't exist. They literally don't exist. It's literally a bunch of proprietary blends thrown together and turned into a made up trademark that doesn't exist. And yet, nobody, I mean, from what I've seen, nobody called it out. Not one person called it out. And when you look at it in terms of caffeine content and all that, so it's going to work. You're going to feel the pre workout. But it's just a bunch of trademarks that don't exist. Simple as that. They have collaborated with somebody who is pretty well known. And that's pretty much the marketing tactic. Let's put a bunch of trademarks that don't exist. Let's make it look fancy. Let's use somebody popular to push the product. And considering that this industry is full of fakes and ass kissing people, nobody's gonna call it out. I didn't. I saw it right away, and I'm like, am I that smart? No, I'm not. You know what? I'm just like everybody else. I'm pretty sure. And then I talked to a few people within the industry, and I said, you know what? I mean, that's pretty much everybody is on the same page in terms of they know exactly what's going on, but they don't want to call it out. They
Hmm.
don't want to call it out because nobody wants to get go into that confrontation. Which I'm like, okay, I understand that. So I mean, I can be quiet too, but that doesn't change the reality that it's not really a great product. It's just a hyped up marketing machine. And like you said, the innovation today, I'm not saying it doesn't exist at all, but it's very, very rare.
A lot
At least what we saw with Ghost, they did something innovative in terms of marketing.
of. Hmm.
And I have to admit, even with energy drinks, they did something innovative. From their collaboration to actually having a formula and not just caffeine.
Yeah, that's a big thing because a lot of energy drinks for a really long time it was just caffeine and then they started adding nootropics and it's like, "Oh, now we can actually feel a little bit of a difference." And that's game changing, especially with the transparency and the flavoring. And I find that a lot of people innovate more with marketing, right? They make these bold claims that the product can't actually back up. Like peptides, like you said, they work, but what a lot of brands are doing is saying this peptide pump is better than your peptide is better than like citrulline. It's like, no, it's not. Don't make those claims.
You know what? There was a company I was actually sent by Lucas Rutkowski from Poland, and he works with Prometheus, and he's very knowledgeable within the industry. He's a big fan of the industry, and he sent me something that was it gave me a good laugh. So a brand owner was hyping up his pre-workout, where he said that's basically, I think he said something. It's either the strongest on the market, or the strongest within allowed amount of caffeine or something like that. But he definitely hyped it up a little bit aggressively. And Lucas called him out on that. He literally called him out on that. And he said, certain things where, that were true. So the owner of the brand kind of got into conversation with him where he said that, you know what? No, Lucas invited him to a podcast. He says, "Well, let's go to a podcast and let's discuss it." And the guy said, "Yeah, whatever, whenever, I'm ready for it. No, no problem at all." So, and then I don't know why, but Lucas mentioned my name. He goes, "Yeah, we'll call Robik, and let's a bunch of us will do a podcast." And the guy goes, "Who is Robik?" And Lucas goes to me, "Can you believe he doesn't know you?" I'm like, "No, he knows me." He said he knows me, and it's just, but that's the way things are going. Rather than creating something new and something innovative and something good that works, they just hype things up in a certain way that it's easier to hype up and it's easier. I mean, how many platforms you know that have thousands and thousands of followers? All you have to do is just write them a check, and they will say whatever you want them to say. They don't even have to come up with anything. You're just going to give them the script and they're going to pretty much say whatever you want them to say. And that's it. So for that, you have athletes. I mean, I just saw an athlete who's been with numerous brands,
Yeah.
numerous,
I see
in,
that
in,
all the
in,
time.
yeah, in the last 5 or 6 years,
Mhm.
he's been probably with 5 or 6 brands. And if you go on his social media, every time he posts about working with a new brand, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
They are the best on the
Yep.
market. They believe in their products. I believe in them. I myself tested them out prior to signing with them. And I'm like, aren't you sick? And you can see in the comments where people are saying you're full of shit. You literally full of shit. And I mean, to me, it's actually impressive to be able to lie with a straight face. That's very,
Mhm.
very impressive.
Yeah, I see it all the time, and it immediately that person loses credibility because it's like you said last week that this guy was the best product. Now this person's the best product, and you're signing with them, and then in 2 months I'll see you with another product. It's crazy. It's just like, do you even use these products? I don't even trust that.
We had an IFBB pro at the gym years and years and years ago. He wanted to sign with Apollon Nutrition, but it was all about money. I mean, it was had nothing to do with the product. And he actually used to come here and he would get our products. He would just take his protein or whatever, but he was signed with a different company at the time. He was signed with a different company and he would come and take pictures that he's using that brand. Just, photos at the gym. I never objected. I was like, okay, I mean, it's fine. I mean, he's a sponsored athlete. So he would take pictures with that brand, but not use it. He would use ours. And then he had like a little, I guess, like a little beef with them, something about contract or something like that. Basically, they were going in a different directions. They were parting ways. And inside the gym, in front of everybody, he takes a product and he screams just to get attention. This is shit product. This is garbage. I don't even use it. And that was good enough for me to say, you know what? I don't think so because you're going to do this to us. To you, it's not about the principle of being with the best brand for your fans, for your followers. To you, it's all about money. And I understand, it sounds naive because a lot of people probably could say to me like, Rob, but it is about money. It's about making a living. I agree. I agree. Like, listen, I do understand that people have a job that pays $100,000 and they go to another job that pays $120,000, and that's okay. That's 100% okay. Again, cost of living is through the roof. People have bills to pay. I do understand, but at what cost? Like, where's the limit? Because I'm not a popular person. I'm not famous. I don't have 100, 200,000 followers. I don't have millions of followers. I don't think I have that influence. But if I did, those are the people that are my fans. Those are the people that look up to me for whatever reason. And just because I get X amount of money per month and free product allowance and stuff like that, those people that look up to me, I'm lying to them.
Mhm.
I'm lying to them. And again, that sounds probably very, very naive, and people my age should probably not think that way, but I do. I do. To me, that matters. My products to manufacture is very, very expensive. And
Yeah.
sometimes we make very little profit. Sometimes we don't make profit selling it, to distributors or whatnot. It's very, very challenging. We're not a multi-million dollar company. We're doing well and we're growing, but there are just certain principles that I will not cross. I will not cross because I want people that are associated with me to be proud of me on the fact that we are putting out an honest product. To me, that's important. Again, I know that it's naive. I totally understand. But that's just me. And on one hand, I understand with people doing certain things for the money. On the other hand, I think that not everything should be for sale. That's not your dignity, not your reputation. If you don't make enough money, like Masha said in her video, get another job.
Yeah. Oh god,
You
I
know,
died at that.
get another job or something like that, or work harder or get a part-time job or something like that. But there is. Because at the end, I mean, what we become prostitutes. That everything is for money, to the highest bidder. If somebody can be like that, I guess that's on them. And that's the reason why lately I try not to go directly after anyone and attack them. I mean, I've changed my way of doing certain things. So I will still do it, but only as a retaliation.
Hmm.
If I absolutely have to, I will definitely defend my brand. I will definitely defend my loved ones. I'll do it. Or if I'm triggered, or it comes up in a conversation, or it comes in a round table, which I always welcomed everybody to do a podcast and discuss things. That's the reason why I respect Dan from Ghost. When we did a podcast years back, there are certain things that I disagreed, and I kind of called him out on that. It was live. He did not even flinch. He basically, like, he even admitted certain things, and he was just like having a regular conversation. Not only didn't he get offended, not only didn't he get aggressive with me, we actually became very friendly.
Hmm.
And I will always respect somebody like that.
Yeah,
And
I
that's rare
guess
today.
people just don't talk enough. Communication isn't there because people just want to hide behind a computer or hide behind a phone. They don't want to have actual conversations with people, and people get offended so easily today instead of actually listening to people.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it's having a conversation or having even a healthy productive debate. I think it's always great.
Hmm.
We can disagree on a movie, we can disagree on a song, we can even disagree on politics, as long as it's done respectfully, by listening to each other and using common sense rather than just, attacking or having an agenda.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you're not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. Not everybody's going to like you. And that's fine because there are going to be people who really love you and really respect you. And that's really what matters at the end of the day is making sure you have integrity and morals and that you stick to your standards.
I think that, I mean, I'm looking right now at all the protein flavors that we have. I know that they all fairly popular. I would say all of them. Now, if you ask me, and again, this is my brand, I don't drink all of them. Because not that I don't like them, it's just some of them I like more than I like the others. Some of them I drink on a daily basis, and some of them that are very popular, I personally won't even touch. It's not my thing. That's the reason why I see those reviewers claiming this is the greatest flavor and this is the best flavor and this is the best chocolate flavor to you. But
Taste is very
it's
subjective.
it's very subjective. You know what? People still laugh when I tell them the story about our Dutch chocolate. Our 50/50 Dutch chocolate is, I don't know if it still is, but for years it's been our number one seller.
Hmm.
If it's not, then it's still probably top two, top three. Because I was never a chocolate flavor person, I never was. I remember when it got approved and people were trying it around the gym and the staff and everybody else, and everybody loved it. They went crazy for it. They gave me to try. I was like, I'm not interested. I said, because I'm not a good judge since I'm not a big chocolate flavored person. So I didn't try. And it was the number one selling product. I tried it first time after about 2 or 3 years that we were selling it. I am the owner of the company. I haven't tried our chocolate. And when people ask me how does it taste, they're like, it's popular. I never tried it. And everybody was like, you never tried it? I'm like, no, it's just not interested. It's not my flavor. And that's it. Then when I tried it, I was like, this is actually pretty good. I like it. But it's still not my first choice. Most of the time, I will actually mix 1 scoop of that chocolate and 1 scoop of salted peanuts. I like that more. But that's me. That's the
Hmm.
reason, like, I read a if I'm going to sell you, the 50/50, I will sell you the idea, the concept, the transparency, the formula. I'm not going to sell you the flavor. I will say, we have this, and this, whatever suits you, whatever you want to try. You're the one who picks. If you're going to ask me for my opinion, I will say, in my opinion, this tastes the best, but don't take my word for it.
Yeah, and that's why when it comes to like reviewers and people who post content, if somebody's literally just making a flavor review, it kind of I tune out a little bit because yes, it's a little bit shorter, yes, it's a little bit more trendy, but it doesn't matter because what if I don't like that flavor and you're saying it's the best? Well, I don't like that flavor, so it doesn't. This is irrelevant. It's not informing me.
You know what? Before we wrap up, actually, I meant to tell you to give you a compliment for something that you said in the beginning, because very rare anyone says that when it comes to supplements. And you mentioned the word healthy, and healthier and beneficial, something that's good for you. And if you notice, very few reviewers actually saying that.
Hmm.
Very few reviewers emphasize supplements and health. They actually go like, oh, this protein bar has 20 grams of protein. Okay, and what does it make it healthy? The 20 grams of protein that is probably about 10 or 12 grams of protein in it. And what about the other stuff that is like pretty fucked up?
Yeah.
No athlete or somebody who wants to be healthy will be using the protein bar to get in shape or anything like that. I'm not saying it's probably better than the regular candy bar, but you cannot call it healthy. It's a bar that has maybe lower sugar content and maybe something that has higher protein content, but it's not healthy. So you emphasizing the health aspect is very, very important. Or I've seen some reviewers going like, "Oh my God, they made this stuff. It tastes just like my favorite candy, or it tastes just like candy, or they collaborated with this candy." Or this pre workout has candy inclusions. Like, really? What about the health aspect?
Hmm.
Because you constantly talking about supplements and health and getting in shape and having a healthy. I mean, I've seen you work out. You're actually pretty good.
Thank
I've
you.
seen the way, yeah, I see the way you look. You actually in shape. I'm not saying that everybody should be like that. People have health conditions and people have different reasons. So I'm not gonna, but sometimes, let's be honest, we see guys, even younger guys, who are reviewers, but they look like they've never been to the gym.
Hmm.
Like they don't go to the gym and they're reviewing flavors and they're reviewing something that, it tastes like candy. Who the fuck cares? I mean, why don't you talk about the formula? Is that a good product? But let me guess, do you even know how to break down the formula? Do you even know the ingredients? Do you know the difference between whey concentrate and whey and WPC 80 concentrate? Do you know the difference between transparency and yield amount of protein or not? Can you even explain the health aspect? Or you just happy that this fucking thing has candy inclusions? I mean, it's great. Maybe you should give that protein just a little bit to the kids. It's better than them having that fucking cereal that they have. So for them, it's very, very beneficial. But what about people with diabetes?
Hmm.
What about people that are getting ready for a show or for a fight or for competition? Or what about people that want to get in shape for the wedding and they literally want to lose some weight? Is that a good protein for them? Is that a good product for them?
Hmm.
Are you so excited about the fact that it has inclusions and it tastes like candy? I mean, where's the health aspect?
Yeah. I always like to say supplements are supplements, right? They supplement or they fill gaps in a solid foundation, which is why I like to show people that I have my fucking habits are dialed. Like, and I will always stand behind my standards and I would always help people make better decisions. So if somebody thinks like, "Oh, this candy flavored protein or this, Oreo cookie that's in my protein, cool. Well, do you actually need this? Like, is this actually helping you become a better version of yourself?" And that's kind of what I focus on.
Yeah, and yesterday was a gym member that I'm very friendly with, and he said something that was very, very interesting. He goes to me, if I diet, I diet. If I try to get in shape, I get in shape and I do whatever it takes to get in shape.
Hmm.
He says, but when I don't get in shape, I drink regular Coke and regular Pepsi. He says there is a time and place for everything. But I feel like those, spiked up with all kind of garbage protein bars and candy protein flavors and whatever not, they kind of in between. They're not really healthy,
Hmm.
but they're not really that bad either. So what are we trying to do? How about you? If I give you a protein that has, I don't know, some kind of chocolate pieces or cookie pieces or whatever they have in it, that's okay. But can you please say in your review, like, okay, this is a quality protein consisting of that much protein, blah, 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 or this type of protein. But on top of it, it has some inclusions that will contribute to the sugar content and calories, that maybe it's not something you're looking for in a product. So just be aware of that. I think that's a review.
Hmm.
and you can add to it. I mean, I'm not teaching them how to do that, I mean, but that's what I would expect. And in my opinion, this tastes very, very good. It's not really my cup of tea, but you know what? If this is the flavor that appeals to you, give it a shot. I think that that's probably the best review possible. It's honest, it puts everything in perspective, and at the same time, you're stating your preference to taste rather than dictating and telling me, well, this is great, this is the best tasting, this is the best chocolate or best vanilla. Who the fuck are you? Since when you're a culinary expert? You're like, why are you giving me, why are you telling me, tell me what you think and what works for you. But don't try to kind of like tell me what works for me because it doesn't.
Exactly. It's about sharing the information, sharing the education, and letting the consumer decide if that's the flavor for them or not. That's kind of like with anything. So like you were saying with, the 50/50 blend, it's like I sell them on the formula and then they can pick and choose whichever flavor sounds best for them.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's like shitload of them here, but not all of them are for me. Not all of them are for you, and
Hmm.
our opinions can be. I mean, I would. I think that I'm pretty knowledgeable. I know you're pretty knowledgeable too. So both of us are going to agree that 50/50 formula is a great formula. It has two great proteins in it. It's fully transparent. You know exactly what you're getting. We both going to agree on it. But we can totally disagree on a personal flavor. Your flavor might not be my flavor. In fact, I might think that your flavor is kind of disgusting, and
Hmm.
you might think of mine, and it's okay. As long as we agree that it's a great product that people can benefit, and maybe when we have a conversation and we recommend it to other people, they might not even pick your flavor or mine. They might even pick something completely different, and that is totally okay. But neither one of us are going to come off as a fucking liar who's getting paid to lie.
Hmm. Amen to that. Now, the last question I want to ask you is if somebody was listening to this today and they're thinking about getting into supplements, like whether it be reviewing products or creating products, what is one piece of advice that you would give to that person?
Research. Go on something like Stacked and read
Mm.
the latest releases probably for about a month. See what's trending, what's popular, see the difference, and then do a research of the best two or three reviewers that are actually have reputation because the shitty reviewers have a shitty reputation too. But do a very good search of good reviewers who actually will do understand the supplement industry and the supplements and the ingredients and listen to them to like lots of their content so you can literally research. And then if you want to get into reviewers to reviewing products, my opinion, again, this is my opinion, if you actually want to review products, if you don't have the knowledge, don't do it. You can't do it if you don't have the knowledge. This is not a movie is subjective. But supplements, if you cannot explain to me the difference between citrulline and caffeine, we had actually somebody working for us who said once, I was shocked that caffeine and citrulline are the same thing.
My goodness.
Yeah, no, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. So make sure you know, so you can be valuable to to the customer, to the consumer, and you will be rewarded by views, by followers, and eventually probably even make a living out of it. You have to be patient and give it time. It doesn't happen overnight. If you want to get into the supplement industry, I would say number one, but I'm speaking, of course, from my perspective, would be come up with honest product. That's number one for me. And number two, don't launch anything unless you can be different. That you're bringing something to the table where you're not copying other products. Because just to release a product with 6 grams of citrulline, 3,200 milligram of beta alanine, and 300 milligram of caffeine, we have a lot of those products. So
Hmm.
if you don't offer something unique and don't have certain talent, don't do it. I mean, probably most people will not listen to this advice anyway. If they want to do it, they think like, okay, I'm going to be a supplement owner or a reviewer. So it's fairly simple. Everything that I do, I always try to learn as much as I can about it. But again, that's me. So, you ask for my advice, that's my advice. So if you want to be a reviewer, make sure you know what you're about to review.
Yeah.
And if you want to get into the business of supplements, make sure you understand ingredients, packaging, marketing. You don't need a lot of money. You can start slow, and make sure that you are different. You're different and you stand out in a crowd, because otherwise you're going to get lost. Well, there are a lot of small crappy brands and there are a lot of big crappy brands. The big crappy brands, they have financial backing. They're going to fucking swallow you. You're not going to be able to compete. The smaller brands, I mean, you're just going to be one of many. So how are you going to stand out? And with today's economy, prices and everything else, it's not worth it. I would say either know what you're doing or stay the fuck away. But that's probably with any industry.
Yeah, 100%. Well, this has been a great conversation. So I'll put all of your information down in the show notes below so we can follow Apollon, you can follow Robik, and everybody listening, go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.